to Scary Stories.
Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and comment where you are watching from. Thank you. Lucas Reed didn't ask questions anymore. He just took the keys, nodded, and drove. That's what his boss liked about him. Lucas didn't care why a house needed cleaning, why a client left, why they stopped paying. He wasn't nosy, just efficient, quiet, unattached. This time was no different, except it was. He knew it the moment he turned onto Mercer Street, where the old colonial sat like it had been waiting for him. The lawn was too neat, the windows too clean. Yet no one had lived here in years. Lucas parked the van and sat for a long moment, watching the second-story window. He'd been told this house had churned through 7 tenants in 2 years, each one breaking their lease early, each one refusing to talk about why. All of them had left in the middle of the night. "I just clean it," Lucas muttered to himself. "Not my job to care." He grabbed the keys and approached the front door. But before he put the key in, the door unlocked itself. Click. The knob turned. Lucas blinked, then stepped inside. He walked the property, room by room. Living room. Immaculate. No dust, no cobwebs. Kitchen. Fully stocked, even though the fridge was unplugged. A faint scent of lavender clung to the air. Bedroom. The bed made, sheets smooth, but with one pillow indented, as if someone had just lifted their head. Lucas ran his hand over it. Cold. Then he entered the bathroom and found something odd. The mirror was smeared with handprints. Not dirt. Grease. Finger marks. Swirled like someone had been wiping it frantically. Stepped closer, and a word appeared as he breathed. "Leave." He wiped the mirror with his sleeve. "Nothing there. Old cleaning chemicals," he whispered. "Just stains, not ghosts." He didn't believe in ghosts. Or he used to. That part of him had died quietly after his father left, and his mother stopped talking. Still, as he opened the hallway closet, he half expected something to reach out. It didn't. But a music box on the top shelf began to play by itself. That night, Lucas stayed in the house. He always did when deep cleaning. No point wasting gas going home. He had a sleeping bag, an old radio, and a book about World War II he never finished. He slept in the living room. At 1:13 a.m., the floorboards above him creaked. He sat up. Hello? Silence. He went upstairs. Nothing there, until he entered the main bedroom and found the music box, the same one from the closet, now sitting on the bed. It was open, and playing. He turned it off, put it in a drawer, then saw a note stuck under the lamp. It was written in faded ink. I waited. You didn't come. Lucas turned slowly, half expecting someone behind him. Nothing. Just cold air, the kind that settles in the lungs and whispers, "You're not alone." Lucas woke up the next morning on the living room floor, the flashlight still clutched in his hand. He hadn't meant to fall asleep again, not after the music box incident. But sometime around 3 a.m., exhaustion overtook fear. He stretched, bones popping, and turned toward the kitchen. That's when he heard it. Soft humming, coming from the air vents. Female, old-fashioned, like something from a phonograph. He leaned close to the duct grate. The sound stopped, and something whispered, "You weren't supposed to stay." He backed away, breath fogging. "Who's there?" No reply. The hallway lights flickered once, then steadied, and the music box started playing again, even though he'd locked it in a kitchen drawer. That night, he stayed up waiting. He didn't pretend it was faulty wiring anymore, or drafts, or leftover cleaning fumes. He knew someone was in the house with him, and around 2:17 a.m., she spoke, from behind the hallway curtain. "I don't like being seen." Lucas turned slowly. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said. "You didn't." "Then, what do you want?" She stepped from behind the curtain, or rather, floated, just a few inches off the ground, pale, long black hair, face half-shadowed, not rotting, not monstrous, just sad. "My name is Evelyn," she said. "I live here. Or haunt here, if you prefer." Lucas didn't run, didn't scream. He just asked, "Why?" They talked. A little more each night. Evelyn explained the job. She was assigned to this property by an agency in the afterlife called the Department of Supernatural Affairs. "I'm what they call a residential agent," she said one night, seated cross-legged in mid-air. "My job is to keep the house empty, permanently." Lucas smirked. "Why?" "Because some places are meant to remain lonely." She warned him not to get attached, not to linger. "They'll come check soon," she added. "If they find you here, I get reassigned." "To where?" Her voice went flat, to nothing, but she kept showing up. At first only in mirrors, windows, reflections in the faucet. Then in full. Lucas didn't tell his boss, didn't call anyone. He just stayed. Because the house that once made him feel alone now felt like someone was finally watching him. Lucas began opening up, talking about things he hadn't said aloud in years. How he never really belonged anywhere. How he worked in empty houses because he was more comfortable among things people left behind. Evelyn listened, sometimes responded. "Lonely people make the best listeners," she said. "They're the only ones who remember silence." She told him about her life in 1949, when the house was hers. How she was engaged, left waiting, how the wedding never happened. How, in her grief, she climbed the attic stairs, locked the door, and never came back down. "You died in the house?" Lucas asked. She nodded. "They found me days later. The mirror shattered beside me." He looked toward the hallway mirror. "Did you ever move on?" Her smile was hollow. "Does this feel like moving on?" One night the temperature dropped suddenly. The candles blew out. Even Evelyn vanished, and someone else appeared in her place. A tall woman in a gray 19th century suit, face sharp, lips pinched. Her name was Clara Vane. She introduced herself as Evelyn's supervisor. "You're interfering with her duties," Clara said to Lucas. "She's not a machine. She's not a woman anymore either. She's dead. She has one job, and you're making her forget it." Clara warned Evelyn. "Emotion leads to attachment. Attachment leads to collapse. Finish this assignment, or be reassigned permanently." Then, she was gone. Lucas looked at Evelyn. "You don't have to do this," he said. "You don't have to scare anyone." She looked back at him. "I used to believe that too." The next day, Lucas got a call from his boss, Andrew Knox. A big contract. Out of state, more money. A long-term assignment. The kind of thing he used to beg for, but he didn't say yes. He hung up the phone, walked to the upstairs mirror and whispered, "I don't want to leave." Evelyn appeared slowly behind him. "You should." "I can't." And he turned, face to face with the ghost, close enough to touch, but still impossibly far. Lucas didn't accept the job offer. He didn't pack, didn't return the keys. He didn't tell anyone why. Every night he sat, and Lucas stayed, day after day, night after night. He no longer flinched at the cold that settled when Evelyn entered the room. He talked to her the way one speaks to memory. Tender, cautious, hopeful. Some nights, she would sit beside him on the old armchair, not touching, but close enough that he could feel the pressure of her sadness. Once, when he asked what the afterlife felt like, she whispered. It's a hallway with no doors. Just the sound of people walking past you. Forever. Lucas found a hidden door in the attic. Behind it, a forgotten room. Dust-filled. Wallpaper peeling. In the center, a small iron-framed bed. Above the headboard, a cracked mirror. Its glass stained with old blood. He stood there for a long time. Evelyn appeared behind him but didn't enter. I thought if I left myself here, she said, he'd come back and find me. Who? She didn't answer. But he already knew. On the bed, Lucas found her wedding invitation, half burned. Next to it, a dried white rose. She never got to wear her dress, never got to say goodbye. Lucas clutched the rose and whispered, "You didn't deserve this." That night, Evelyn disappeared without a word. Instead, a different ghost arrived. Her name was Lydia Hale, another residential agent sent by Clara Vane to monitor Evelyn's performance decline. Where Evelyn was gentle, Lydia was precise. She locked doors, shattered windows, appeared in full screaming form. A young couple came to view the house the next morning, and fled within minutes. Lucas confronted Lydia. "You don't scare me," she smiled with teeth that didn't belong in any human mouth. "You're not who I'm here for." Lucas found Evelyn in the attic, flickering in and out like a damaged light. "I'm forgetting," she said. "My edges feel soft." "You're not fading. I don't know where I end anymore, or where you begin." She looked up at him. "I miss touch." Lucas held out his hand. She didn't take it. Couldn't. But the room grew warmer. The light steadied. They didn't need touch. Not when the ache in their voices said more than skin ever could. Lucas's boss, Andrew Knox, showed up in person. Knocking, demanding answers. "I've sent 3 crews and they all walked out screaming. I don't care what you're seeing. This place is done. We're putting it on auction." Lucas didn't respond, because behind Andrew's shoulder, Evelyn stood, watching with hollow eyes. That night, Lucas walked the house alone, every creaking board, every closet. He stopped in the bathroom, turned to the mirror. Evelyn's face was there, crying. "I can't hold on much longer," she whispered. "They'll erase me." Lucas asked, "What if I could stay forever?" Evelyn blinked. "You'd die." "I already feel like I'm not really alive." Lucas walked to the attic, stood where Evelyn died. He placed her old rose beside the bed, then pulled out a bottle of sleeping pills from his coat. In the mirror across the room, Evelyn screamed silently, pressing her hands to the glass. "Don't do this," she said. "I wanted you to live." Lucas spoke slowly. "I've never belonged anywhere. Except this house. Except with you." He swallowed the first handful. "I'm not afraid." He closed his eyes and fell onto the bed. The light bulb above him shattered. A pulse of shadow surged through the attic, and then everything went still. Lucas didn't die. Not fully. He awoke lying on the attic floor, but something was wrong. The air was thicker, too quiet. No sunlight filtered through the boards. The entire house felt distant, like a dream remembered wrong. He stood. His breath didn't fog. His heartbeat was gone. When he looked in the cracked mirror, his reflection didn't follow him. Instead, it smiled. Then Evelyn appeared. Not flickering, not transparent. She was whole, and crying. "You weren't supposed to follow me here." Lucas wandered the house with Evelyn. Every door he opened revealed a piece of someone else's memory. A mother screaming over an empty crib. A man whispering apologies to a noose. Children huddled under a blanket while something growled behind the wallpaper. "These are the echoes," Evelyn said. What gets left behind when people break in silence? Lucas asked. Am I dead? She shook her head. You're something else. Between. Caught. He looked at his hands. They flickered like candlelight. And you? I'm not allowed to feel this, she said. Not love, not hope. Then why do you? Because you stayed. The house shook the next night. Doors slammed. Glass cracked. In reverse. Then, Lydia Hale returned. No longer in mortal form. Her face was stitched shut. Moth wings beat from her back. Her voice echoed from inside the walls. She circled Evelyn. You've broken the contract, Lydia hissed. Emotional interference, human preservation. You let him die for you. I didn't let him, Evelyn said. I begged him not to. Lydia's mouth ripped open, revealing rows of teeth made of glass. You will be erased. Clara Vane returned in smoke and silence. The sky outside the house cracked like painted glass. Evelyn and Lucas stood before her in the living room, where the furniture hovered slightly above the floor. You were meant to maintain balance, Clara told. Evelyn, instead you infected a soul. I loved him. Clara's face didn't move. Then you'll share his fate. She looked at Lucas. You are not dead. You are not alive. You are becoming. Becoming what? A ghost with no tether. A shadow that remembers warmth but cannot feel it. Lucas stood between Evelyn and Clara. If I accept my place here, will she be spared? Clara paused. Yes, but you must take her role. Permanently. You mean... haunt? No, watch. Forever. Without speaking. Without touching. Just observe. Maintain loneliness. Evelyn's eyes widened. I won't let you do this, she said. Lucas looked at her. I already did. The moment I chose to die with you. He turned to Clara. I accept. The wind stopped. Time slowed. Evelyn stepped close to Lucas, their forms shimmering, fading. She pressed her forehead to his. For a moment, they looked like light learning to hold itself together. I waited for you, she whispered. I'll wait longer, he said. Clara raised her hand. Evelyn vanished. A single feather fell where she stood. Pale gray, shaped like a moth's wing. Lucas picked it up. Then the house went dark. The job had begun. Lucas stood in the hallway, mirror, and saw no reflection, no face, no voice, no heat in his breath. Just a soft flickering outline, like a candle under glass. He'd become what Evelyn once was, but not quite. She had feelings. He had only time. The house had changed too. The air was thicker. More memories floated in the corners, visible only to him. He watched as new people came and went, some staying a few days, some only minutes. He could no longer speak to them, could no longer leave signs. All he could do was observe and remember. Clara visited once a week, her presence like a cold wind in the walls. She checked on Lucas's performance, reciting notes. Your stillness is adequate. Your presence is consistent. Your emotional signature remains low. He nodded. That was all he could do. Speak, and he'd risk becoming visible. Visible ghosts scare. Lucas didn't want to scare anyone. He just wanted to wait. Families moved in. Some stayed long enough to paint the kitchen or hang baby mobiles. Lucas watched the father drop keys, the mother laugh at the TV, a child draw moths in crayon on the wall, and then they left. No reason, no warning, just gone. Something always made them leave. He was still a ghost, even if he didn't want to be. Even love repelled people now. One night, a girl named Mia, no older than 10, wandered through the hallway. She stopped at the mirror and saw him. Her breath caught. Then she said, "Are you sad?" Lucas couldn't speak, but she smiled. "I get sad too." She drew a heart in the fogged glass, then ran off. Clara appeared later that night, furious. "You let her see." Lucas only stared. Clara warned, "The longer you feel, the closer you get to collapse. When ghosts collapse, they vanish, forgotten, even by themselves." Ghosts weren't supposed to dream, but Lucas did. And in that dream, he walked through the forest and found a cabin. Inside was a table, a warm fire, and Evelyn sitting across from him, human, laughing. She reached out to take his hand, and just as they touched, he woke up. The walls around him wept. Real water. Real sorrow. It happened on the 5th year. The house had been empty for months, dust on the windows. Then, the lights turned on. Lucas followed the sound of the front door. A figure stood in the entryway. She wasn't flickering. She wasn't bound by rules anymore. It was Evelyn, but brighter, freer, changed. She walked through the house slowly, fingers brushing the walls, then stopped in front of the mirror and whispered, "Lucas, I remember everything." She held out her hand. "I went where they said I couldn't. I broke through. Because I promised to come back." Lucas stepped closer, and for the first time, their hands touched. The house began to fall apart that night. The foundation cracked. The attic collapsed. But inside, 2 ghosts stood hand in hand, untouched by ruin. Clara appeared one last time. "You'll be forgotten," she said. "Both of you." Evelyn smiled. "We already were." The next morning, the house was gone. A demolition crew leveled it. Only 2 things remained: a cracked mirror, a feather shaped like a moth's wing resting in the grass. After the house was destroyed, Lucas and Evelyn did not pass on. They fell, not down, not up, just between, into a place of fog and fragments. A realm stitched from forgotten moments, where mirrors reflected people who never lived, where clocks ticked backward, where names were erased before they were spoken. They wandered hand in hand in a space where the rules were made of sorrow. They didn't sleep, didn't speak, but they still felt. And sometimes, that was worse. Voices would bleed in through the fog, children whispering nursery rhymes, teenagers daring each other to enter where the house used to be. Ghost hunters shouting into the wind, "If there's anyone here, knock once." Lucas would always turn to Evelyn. She would nod, and together they would watch. Never interfere, never speak. Not anymore. Just like the job trained them. Years passed, then decades. They began to forget details. Lucas forgot what his voice sounded like. Evelyn forgot the shape of her handwriting. One day she asked, "What was my favorite song?" Lucas couldn't remember. Instead, he held her hand tighter, but even that, eventually, started to flicker. One night, Evelyn turned to him and whispered, "If I fade, promise me you'll keep waiting." He nodded. But something inside him cracked. In the living world someone rebuilt on the ruins. A new house. Modern, white siding. Big windows. Families moved in again. But every 3 a.m., lights flickered. Children complained of shadows watching them. Mirrors fogged when no one was in the room. A cold spot hovered over the attic stairs. Even though the attic no longer existed, they never appeared fully, not like before, but the new house remembered them, and that was enough to anchor them. 73 years after Lucas died, a woman named Isla moved in. She was blind in one eye and wore an old silver locket around her neck. Inside the locket was a photo of her grandmother, Evelyn. She found the broken mirror in the basement, hung it in the hall, and sometimes she spoke to it. I don't know why, but this mirror makes me feel less alone. Lucas stood behind the glass. He didn't cry. Ghosts don't cry. But if they could, he would have. One night the mirror cracked slightly, and for a moment Isla looked right into it and said, "Lucas." He froze. She couldn't have known his name. No one had spoken it in decades. Then he felt it, a voice from Evelyn, inside him, soft as moth wings. "That's our granddaughter." We didn't wait for nothing. Lucas stepped back from the mirror. The fog swirled. A door opened, and for the first time since he died, he smiled. In the nowhere place, Evelyn was waiting. She looked older, or maybe just whole. Lucas walked to her. They didn't speak, but this time, they didn't need to. The fog pulled away. The sky tore open like paper, and they stepped into light that felt like being remembered. The new family kept the mirror in, the hallway, and sometimes when Isla passed it, she'd feel a breeze, warm, like someone had just walked by. The house sleeps now. No voices, no flickering, only silence. But if you stand very still, late at night, and if you listen through the mirror, you might hear it. I waited for you. I was 6 when she vanished. One moment she was tucking me in, smelling of lavender and fabric softener. The next, the power went out, and everything turned to shadow. I remember the creak of the hallway floor, the hiss of a match, then her scream and silence. I've been afraid of the dark ever since, not like most people, not like fear that fades. Mine sharpens. It vibrates in my blood. It suffocates. It follows me. Even now, as a federal agent with years in the field, I never go anywhere without a tactical flashlight in each pocket and a backup strapped to my thigh. Some people carry knives. I carry light. The first girl disappeared during a thunderstorm, 10 years old. Her name was Haley Fenn. Blonde pigtails, soccer trophies on her shelf. She vanished from her bedroom. No broken windows, no forced doors. Only her nightlight had been shattered. A strange, scorched moth symbol drawn on the glass. I stared at the photo for a long time that night. She looked like Sophie, my sister. I hadn't thought about Sophie in years. That's how grief works. It eats memory until only the ache remains. She was 8 when Mom disappeared, and 2 years later she followed her. Same night, same darkness, same scream. They ruled it a runaway case, claimed I must have left the door unlocked, that Sophie had emotional issues, that it wasn't my fault, but I knew better. There was something in the dark that night. The second girl, Maria Vega, went missing in a school basement during detention. The janitor said the power flickered. Then the hallway lights died. He thought he saw something crawling on the wall. He wouldn't talk after that. They found her shoe beneath a moth-covered light fixture. Her fingerprints on the wall, dragging downward. I stood in that basement 3 hours later, flashlight beam shaking in my hand. Dan Mercer, my partner, was behind me, chewing gum like always. "You okay?" he asked. I lied. Dan and I worked homicide. Missing kids weren't supposed to be our problem. But something about these cases made the Bureau nervous. They wanted profiling insight. They wanted me, because they knew I understood darkness. By the third abduction, the Bureau started whispering. 3 girls, all between ages 8 and 11, all taken during blackouts or power failures. each scene marked by the same moth-like carving, burned, not drawn. No bodies, no blood, only darkness and silence. I requested the files from cold cases going back 25 years. I found my sister's photo in the stack, and a chill moved down my spine like ice poured through my skull. The dreams came back that week. Not memories, not visions, replays. I was in my childhood bedroom again, a thin sheet tucked to my chin, the nightlight glowing red-orange on the wall. But something was wrong. Something crawling just beneath the carpet, pushing it upward in slow waves, like a snake. Then it was behind me, breathing, heavy, wheezing, and whispering, "Turn it off, Ethan." I woke choking. I'd bitten down so hard I cracked a molar. Blood pooled on the pillow. My flashlight was dead. The room was pitch black. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. The fear had come home. I forced myself to visit the Fen crime scene. The next day, even though it had been a week since her disappearance. Her mother was gone, hospitalized for psychiatric breakdown. The house stood silent. The moment I entered Haley's room, the air shifted. It felt like something had never left. The closet door was cracked. I pointed my flashlight at it. Inside was an empty wire hanger swaying. Then I saw it. The moth symbol burned into the carpet beneath the bed. I dropped to my knees. It was identical to the one from Sophie's case file. And my mother's too. The shape wasn't just symbolic. It was branded, ritualistic. That night, I pulled out my old case boxes. I found the missing photograph of Sophie's bedroom. It had been taped shut. When I peeled it open, I dropped the picture. Because in the far corner of the photo, behind the open door, was a shadow. Human-shaped. Too tall for a child. Too narrow for a man, and where the face should have been, just black. Dan thought I was pushing too hard. "You're seeing ghosts," he said. "You haven't slept." He was right, but I couldn't stop. 3 days later, we responded to a new disappearance. A girl named Lena Carver went missing from her bedroom during a power outage. Her older brother said he woke up to a strange sound, like wings fluttering, but found nothing. The window was locked. Her bed was still warm, but the only light bulb in the hallway, smashed. Inside the shards, etched in blood, was a word: remember. I didn't tell Dan. I didn't tell the Bureau. I knew what it meant. They weren't taking just children. They were taking memories, twisting them, using them. Something was building beneath the surface, something intelligent, ritualistic, patient. Requested an interview with a trauma psychologist. Her name, Dr. Miriam Stone. She had worked with abducted children before, specializes in memory suppression. And when I showed her the symbol, she didn't blink. Instead, she asked, "Where did you find this?" Because that mark, that's not just a moth. It's a species, Noctua, Latin for night. It's also a god. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the bulb in my ceiling flicker. I held the flashlight until my hand cramped. And then, I saw her. In the corner of the room, Sophie, or someone that looked like her. Pale, eyes wide, lips stitched shut. She pointed to the closet and whispered, "They live there, Ethan. In the places light forgets." I turned on every light in the house, but when I opened the closet, the inside was painted black, and on the wall behind my coats, burned in, scorched deep. Welcome back. Dr. Miriam Stone's office was nothing like I expected. It wasn't warm. It wasn't clinical. It was empty. No pictures on the walls. No certificates. No books. Just a leather chair, dim lamp, and a painting of a black-winged insect that I couldn't stop staring at. "A Noctua pronuba," she said, seeing me look. A moth that flies only in the darkest parts of night. I nodded. She waited. So, she began. You're the agent who sees ghosts in closets. She wasn't mocking. She was testing. I'm not here for a diagnosis, I said. I'm here because I found this. I placed the photograph on her desk, the one of my sister's bedroom, with the moth symbol burned in, and the shadow behind the door. Dr. Stone stared at it a little too long. Then she said, "Tell me about your dreams." I didn't want to, but I did. The snake under the carpet. The red light. Sophie pointing at the closet. The stitched lips. Dr. Stone didn't take notes. She just listened. When I finished, she said, "What if your fear isn't irrational? What if it's inherited?" I blinked. My mother was terrified of the dark, she continued. Died screaming in it. Some families pass on money. Others pass on fear. She leaned closer. And sometimes fear is a map. After that session, I went back to Lena Carver's house. The missing girl. The fluttering wings. The word remember, written in blood. Her parents were gone. The house was quiet. Too quiet. In Lena's room, I found something the forensics team missed. A cassette tape jammed into the vent, half burned. Labeled only with a symbol, the moth. I played it back. At the bureau, static. Then humming. Then a girl's voice. Not Lena's, Sophie's. Whispering. He's here again. The man with the no face. He brings the dark with him. Don't let him under the door. I dropped the recorder. Dan Mercer caught me in the hallway. "You look like hell," he said. "I'm getting answers," I replied. He sighed. "I checked. In on your Dr. Stone. She's legit. But her license was suspended a few years back." "Why?" He hesitated. "For memory experimentation, regressive trauma work, some kind of hypnotic reconditioning, deep brain stuff. She worked with kids." My stomach turned cold. I confronted her the next day. "You erased memories." She didn't flinch. "I helped children forget what couldn't be survived," she said. "Some trauma shouldn't be remembered. Some memories grow teeth." I pulled out the tape, played it for her. She listened and whispered, "It's starting again." That night I had another dream. Only this time, I wasn't in my room. I was in the basement. Ours. The old one from childhood. And someone was humming in the dark. Then I saw it. A girl. Sophie. Maybe. Crouched in the corner, rocking, whispering. But when she turned around, her face was mine. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came. Just moths. Thousands of them pouring out. I woke up gagging. Dan called the next morning. "We found someone," he said. "A survivor. Her name was Isabel Trent, age 10, taken 5 years ago. Found wandering along a highway during a thunderstorm, barefoot, bleeding, half naked. She wouldn't speak to anyone, only drew pictures, hundreds of them. Same image, the moth, and a face with no eyes. They brought her to the field office. When I walked in, she screamed. Not a scared scream, a knowing one. 'Don't let the lights go out,' she cried. 'That's when he feeds.' She wouldn't look at me, wouldn't answer questions. But then she began drawing. A house, a staircase, a trapdoor. And in the trapdoor, Sophie, chained, crying. I stared at the drawing, my hands shaking. It was the exact layout of my childhood home. I went back that night, to the house, condemned now. Mold crawling up the walls like veins. Windows boarded, foundation cracked, but the front door opened too easily. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and blood. I walked through the halls with my flashlight. Every creak beneath my boots felt like a whisper. Then I found it. The basement door, locked, but the lock was old. I broke it. The staircase groaned under my weight. The air down there was wrong, like time didn't move here, like light bent inward. In the far corner, I saw the trapdoor, exactly where Isabel drew it. I opened it. Dust, bones, scraps of hair, and a necklace, Sophie's locket. I grabbed it with shaking hands, and heard something behind me. Footsteps. I spun around, flashlight raised. Nothing. But then I saw the wall. New carvings. Dozens of moths, and a phrase burned in letters a foot tall. "You forgot her." I woke up in my car 3 hours later, head bleeding, keys in the ignition, flashlight broken, no memory of leaving the house, locket gone, and scrawled on the inside of my windshield, in ash, "She remembers you." Dan didn't believe me. Dr. Stone wouldn't return my calls. I was alone again. But I wasn't crazy, because that night, the lights in my apartment flickered out, and as I lit a candle, I saw my reflection in the window, and behind me, Sophie. Her mouth was moving, but I couldn't hear it, because something in the walls was breathing. They tell you not to dig too deep, not into memory, not into family, and never into basements you've already escaped once. 3 days passed after the trapdoor. I didn't sleep, I didn't dream, but every time I blinked, I saw her face. Sophie, but wrong. Her eyes opened too wide, her smile carved at the corners, her locket swinging from a rope of moth wings. She wasn't haunting me, she was waiting. I found a name in one of the old cold case folders. Lillian Voss, wealthy philanthropist. Owned a network of safe homes for displaced girls in the late 1990s. One of them burned down, a facility called the Black Hollow Orphanage. 10 girls died, no survivors, no arrests. Lillian vanished the next year, declared dead after a boating accident, but no body was ever recovered. And here's the thing. When I ran facial recognition on a blurry image from a 1996 newspaper article about the orphanage's opening, Lillian Voss looked identical to my mother. Same eyes, same nose, same scar under the chin, except the article said she was already 45 in 1996. My mother would have been 30 then. I started shaking. I couldn't breathe. Dan found me in the bureau bathroom, vomiting. "You need help," he said. "This case is pulling you under." "It's not just a case," I snapped. "They took her. They took Sophie, and I think they knew me." "Who?" "Lillian." Dr. Miriam Stone finally returned my call. "I've been doing research," she said. "You're not going to like it." She brought me to an old storage unit she'd rented. Inside were boxes of redacted records, confidential files, recordings. "These children weren't just taken," she said. "They were reprogrammed." She showed me MRI scans, child brains surgically altered, memories rewritten, fear conditioning experiments. One scan looked familiar. Too familiar. It was my brain. "I never gave you my scan," I said. She swallowed. "You were one of them, Ethan." The room spun. My knees buckled. But her voice kept going, detached, cold. "You were at Black Hollow for 6 months, age 7. I was assigned to work with you. You wouldn't stop screaming about something in the walls, something whispering to you." I backed away. "You lied to me." "I saved you," she said. "No," I whispered. "You erased me." I ran. I didn't remember the drive, but I ended up outside a private asylum listed in the orphanage records, now shuttered. But someone still lived there. A former patient. Name: Marcus Wren. He was 8 when he went missing in 1995. Returned at 15, mute and malnourished. Now he lived in a room sealed with locks, fed through a slot. The staff called him the Whisperer. When I walked in, he was standing in the corner, facing the wall. Then he spoke. Ethan Graves. I froze. He turned around. His face was a mess of self-inflicted scars, but his eyes were crystal clear. I remember you, he said. You were her favorite. I asked who. He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled back the wallpaper, revealed carvings, moths, hundreds of them, and one more phrase. She buried them. But she left their eyes open so they could watch her forever. Marcus screamed when the power flickered, curled into the fetal position, started repeating, "Don't look in the mirror. Don't look in the mirror." Then I noticed the room had no mirrors. They'd all been shattered. When I left, my phone buzzed. A voicemail. A girl's voice. Breathy. Weak. Ethan. I'm still down here. Please. Don't let her take my face. I drove straight to my old childhood home. It had been sealed. Up again, this time with police tape. I broke in. The trap door in the basement was still there. Still waiting. This time, I went inside. The tunnel beneath the door was deeper than I remembered. It twisted, spiraled. I had to crawl at points. The flashlight flickered, then died. I screamed. Then I heard her voice. "Sophie, don't turn around," she whispered. "If you see them, they follow you." I kept crawling, eyes shut, until I hit something metal, a hatch. When I opened it, I entered a chamber lined with TV screens. Each screen showed a different child's room. Night vision, cribs, beds, and in one of them, Sophie, alive, pale, shaking. Her mouth sewn shut. Then the screens all cut out, one by one, until only one remained. Mine. My apartment, my bedroom, me, standing there, watching, and behind me, a woman in black, smiling. The door slammed behind me. I turned and came face to face with a wall of eyes. Human eyes, preserved in jars, labeled. I found one labeled Sophie Graves. Was empty, and under it, a new label, Ethan Graves, coming home. I ran. I don't remember how I got out. I just know I crawled back into the night, covered in dust and blood, screaming for a sister who might never have left. Dan found me, on the side of the road at dawn. I was whispering to myself. She buried them with their eyes open, so they could keep watching her, so they could see what she became. They say obsession is love gone mad. But what do you call it when fear becomes comfort? When the dark stops being your enemy and starts sounding like home? I stopped, reporting to the bureau. Dan left 17 voicemails. I didn't answer. I sat in my apartment, watching the hallway light flicker, writing names I didn't remember knowing, drawing the moth symbol over and over until the pen snapped in my hand. Something had shifted inside me. The fear didn't burn anymore. It pulsed, rhythmic, like a heartbeat, like wings. I returned to Dr. Stone, not for help, but for answers. She didn't open the door at first, but I waited. All night. When she finally let me in, she looked older. Gaunt. "You're remembering. Too fast," she said. "It's unraveling you." "I want it to," I replied. She sat me down, lit a single red bulb overhead. "I didn't just erase you, Ethan. I hid you." She pulled out a box. Inside were tapes, dozens of them, each marked with a child's name. One read, "Subject E. Graves." She played the tape. I heard my own voice, young, shaking. "She takes the eyes first, so they can see her forever." She said I was lucky. I didn't need mine to feel her. Then, Silence. Then another voice. Female. Calm. Familiar. You are chosen, Ethan. You are mine now. I slammed the tape off. Who is she? Dr. Stone. Answered without blinking. Lillian Voss. Founder of the Order of the Red Room. She told me everything. There had once been a sect of women who believed in transcending fear. By feeding it, they worked in orphanages, in halfway homes, in special education clinics. They didn't hurt children, they transformed them. Used trauma to open gates in the mind. Fear wasn't a symptom, it was a key. Lillian was their prophet, charismatic, brilliant, and utterly monstrous. She called her chosen children moth-born, because moths don't fear the flame. They fly into it. I left without speaking. The dark no longer terrified me. It beckoned. I followed a trail of old land deeds and shell companies to a place buried in Bureau archives. Ashridge Farm, burned down in 2004. Site of a suspected cult. I drove there in the middle of the night. No moon, no sound. The house was nothing but a frame, charred wood and rusted gates. But behind it, hidden by overgrowth, was a red door buried in the hill. No handle, only a keyhole shaped like a moth. I forced it open with a crowbar. Inside, a corridor lit by flickering red bulbs. The walls lined with drawings, children's drawings, eyes, 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 a woman in black. A room with no ceiling, a bed of glass where the children were made to sleep. I moved forward, flashlight shaking. Then I found it. The Red Room. It wasn't paint. It was cloth. The walls were draped in red velvet. Moth wings sewn into the fabric, and in the center of the room, a mirror. Or what looked like one. When I looked into it, my reflection didn't move. He stared at me, blinking out of sync. Then he smiled and whispered, "Welcome home." I ran. I don't remember how far, but I ended up outside, in the woods. The flashlight flickered out. And that's when I saw her. Not in a vision, not in a dream, in flesh. Lillian Voss. She looked exactly as I remembered her. Or never stopped remembering. Ageless, pale, eyes like two burned-out bulbs. She wore a black cloak, stitched with silver thread. Moths crawled along her skin like jewelry. She smiled like a mother seeing her favorite child. "You came back," she whispered. "You always come back." She reached out to touch my cheek. I flinched, and she laughed. "I gave you purpose, Ethan. You're not here to stop me. You're here to finish what we started." Then she vanished, not with smoke or a scream. She blinked out, like a light shut off. I collapsed in the woods, woke, up hours later to the sound of my name. Ethan. It was Dan. He'd tracked my car. "You're bleeding," he said. "We're going to the hospital." "No," I told him. "We're going to save her." "Sophie?" I nodded. "She's still alive, and I know where she is." He didn't argue. He just said, "Then we do it together." I spent the next 48 hours gathering everything. Maps, blueprints, power grids. Lillian's old properties had a pattern, everyone near overlapping blackout zones, places where light failed. Dan traced the most recent outage site to a forest outside, Wraith County. There was a compound there, and an access tunnel. I loaded my gun, brought backup flashlights, rope, salt. Dr. Stone gave me one final gift, a flare gun. "She feeds in the dark," she said, "but fire's always hungry, too." We drove in silence. At the edge of the forest we saw it, a long, narrow house. Windows, blacked out, no doors in front, just a tunnel beneath, labeled with one word carved in old wood, Mother. We entered the tunnel beneath the house just before midnight. No turning back. No lights above. Only the black. Dan clicked on his flashlight. I had 2 backups on my belt. My fingers trembled on the flare gun. Each step forward felt like wading deeper into someone's memory. Not mine, not Dan's, but hers. Lillian's. The tunnel walls were carved stone, laced with thin white roots like veins. Faded murals stretched along the surface. Moth-winged women, crowned in blood. Some of them had children at their feet. Others held eyes in their palms. No names, just symbols. "This isn't just a place," Dan said behind me. "It's a church." He was right. After 15 minutes, we reached the first chamber. It looked like a nursery. Rotten cribs, toys half melted, stuffed animals with their eyes ripped out, and on the walls, more drawings, dozens of them. Each one was the same girl. Black hair, pale face, eyes sewn shut. Under every drawing, a single word: Sophie. I felt my legs buckle. Dan put a hand on my shoulder. "We're close." I nodded and pushed forward. The hallway narrowed, squeezing us between stone and heat, then opened into a larger room. A sanctum. I saw glass jars lining the walls, each with floating human eyeballs inside, each labeled Samantha, R, Lena C, Haley F, and Sophie Graves. The jar was empty, and the label had a fresh tag below it, reclaimed. We weren't alone. From the shadows they stepped forward. Women in black veils, moving in perfect silence. Moths crawled along their arms, pulsing like veins. Their mouths were stitched shut. Each held a candle. Each candle flickered blue. Then, in the center of the room, the floor opened, and a platform rose, carrying her, Lillian Voss. She looked untouched by time, ageless, regal. Her cloak shimmered with moving wings. "Welcome home, Ethan," she said. Her voice sounded like every lullaby. I'd forgotten. Every whisper from the walls. Dan raised his gun. She didn't flinch. "You've brought light into my cathedral," she said. "How rude." Then she raised her hand, and the candles went out. The moths flew. Dan screamed. Something knocked him back. I turned on my flashlight just in time to see veiled women crawling on the walls, upside down, their joints bending wrong, their mouths still sewn shut. But I didn't shoot, because Lillian spoke again. "Would you like to see her?" A door opened behind her, and out stepped Sophie, alive, barefoot, silent, dressed in white. Her eyes were wide, her lips stitched, but she walked toward me, her hands trembled. I dropped to my knees. "Sophie?" She reached for my face and placed something in my palm, a silver needle. Lillian smiled. "She's ready, Ethan. Ready to return to us. All she needs now is your eyes." Dan crawled back to his feet, coughing blood. "We're leaving," he yelled. Lillian turned toward him, and the walls closed. She moved without motion, stepping between shadows. I fired my gun. It passed through her. She laughed. "Light can't touch what was born in the dark." Dan screamed again. One of the veiled women had latched onto his back. I grabbed the flare gun, fired. The chamber lit like a sunburst. Screeches filled the air. Moths burst into flame, and Lillian vanished in the blaze. I grabbed Sophie's hand. She didn't resist. We ran through crumbling tunnels, past empty rooms with beds and cages, past recordings playing on loop of children screaming. The walls were shaking, smoke behind us. Sophie never blinked, never cried, just walked, as if she'd already been through the fire. We made it to the exit tunnel. Dan stumbled after us, bleeding badly. I turned to help him, and saw her again. Lillian, not burned, not bleeding, smiling. "Darkness is a mother too, Ethan," she whispered. And it always takes its children back. I fired the last flare, straight at her face. This time, she screamed. The flame consumed her. Her mouth tore open, and moths poured out, screeching, dying midair. She collapsed, and for the first time, she didn't vanish. She burned. We burst out of the tunnel as the compound collapsed behind us. Dan dropped. Sophie fell to her knees. The sun was rising. The light hurt. But we were alive, for now, because in Sophie's palm was a fresh moth. Alive, beating its wings. We left the compound before sunrise. The forest didn't feel like it used to. The birds were quiet. The trees leaned inward, like they'd been listening. I carried Sophie in my arms. Dan walked behind, bleeding from the ribs. She hadn't spoken. Not once. But she was breathing. Still warm. Still here. They took us to a bureau safe house 30 miles away. Dan was hospitalized. I refused treatment. I locked myself in a windowless room with a desk lamp and a tape recorder. And I waited. Because I knew it wasn't over. That night, Sophie opened her mouth. The stitches were gone, but her lips didn't move. The voice came from somewhere deeper, behind her eyes. She's not gone. The flare hadn't killed Lillian, only changed her. Dr. Stone confirmed it. She arrived that morning, bags under her eyes, trembling. "There's always a second birth," she said. "The order believed death purified the vessel. Now, she's untethered." "Where is she?" I asked. Stone looked at Sophie. "She'll show you, when it's time." Later that day, Sophie began drawing, just like the other children had. Her hand moved in circles, moths, spirals, blood-red lines. She drew a field, a stone circle, a hole in the earth, and a mirror. I recognized it. The location wasn't in any file, but it lived in my nightmares. Dan insisted on coming. Despite the pain, he said, "I'm not letting you walk into hell without backup." I brought the flare gun, 2 flashlights, and a vial of salt, old tricks, small comforts. The sun set just as we reached the clearing. It was real. The circle, the mirror, the earth around it, scorched like something had climbed out. The mirror stood, upright in the grass, but it didn't reflect the sky. It reflected me, alone, bleeding, screaming. Sophie stepped forward and whispered, "She wants you back." Then the sky went dark. No stars, no moon. Like a hand had smothered the world, and the mirror shimmered, then cracked, and Lillian stepped through. She wasn't human anymore. Her eyes were burning coals, her skin gray and veined with light. Moths circled her like a crown. "Ethan," she breathed. "You opened the door. Now let me in." She reached for me, and I didn't move. Dan fired his weapon. It did nothing. Lillian turned her gaze, and Dan lifted off the ground. His body spasmed. His eyes went black, then burst. He dropped. "Dead!" I screamed. But Lillian only stepped closer. "You were made for this. We took your fear, fed it, raised it. You're not afraid of the dark anymore." She leaned in. "You are the dark." I pulled out the flare gun. Fired. This time she caught the flame in her palm and ate it. The grass around us died. Sophie stood, frozen, lips trembling. Then she turned to me and said in my mother's voice, "Don't fight her. You've always belonged." I collapsed. The world twisted sideways. I was in the red room again, the mirror pulsing, the eyes watching. My own reflection smiled at me. He raised a knife and said, "You can't kill the dark. You can only wear it." I woke screaming. Sophie was gone. Lillian stood in her place, holding Sophie's locket. I gave you everything, she said. Now give me your eyes. But I didn't run. Instead, I stepped into the circle, opened my arms, and let the dark take me. The wind screamed. The ground cracked. I saw my life backward. Every nightlight, every scream, every time I begged the dark to go away. But the truth was, I'd always been waiting for it. I smiled. Lillian reached for me, and I grabbed her, dragged her into the mirror with me, and lit the last flare inside the glass. The explosion rocked the clearing. Sophie collapsed to her knees. The mirror shattered, the moths burned, and silence fell. They found Sophie 2 days later, wandering barefoot near the tree line. She wouldn't speak, only whispered one thing. He stayed behind. Months passed. The Bureau buried the case. Dan's body was never recovered. Neither was mine. But sometimes, in the deepest parts of night, when a child cries and the power flickers, something whispers from the closet, and if you listen closely, you'll hear a voice say, "Let the dark in." It starts in the rain, a vigil, softly lit. Rows of trembling candle flames under plastic cups, mothers weeping into paper programs, names etched on cheap plywood crosses, faces smiling from laminated photos. Gone now. All gone. No one speaks. Loud here. The town has learned not to raise its voice anymore. It's been 2 years since the last body was found at Redwood Farm. But grief still seeps up through the soil like old blood refusing to dry. He arrives just past the minister's closing prayer, soaked to the bone, shoes caked in red clay. No one notices him at first. He blends with the grief, just another shadow under a hood. But he waits until the candles burn low. Waits until the parents grow tired of holding each other. Waits until they begin to drift away. Then he speaks, not loud, but certain. I know where they died. 2 families stop mid-step. A woman holding a framed photo drops it into the mud. He holds up a leather-bound book, frayed, stained, brittle at the edges like it's been burned and burned again. He flips to the first page. A map, hand-drawn, of the hollow. They don't believe him at first, not entirely. But grief has a way of cracking skepticism. He sits them down, not in a church, not in a home, but in the back room of a failing hardware store. He spreads the map out across a dented metal table beneath yellow buzzing lights. This is where it started, he says, pointing to a clearing deep inside the redwoods, circled, in ash. And this is where they always end up. A second circle, even deeper. So far off the main trail it isn't even labeled. You've been there? One father asks, voice shaking. I've been close, the stranger says. Why didn't you tell the police? I did. What did they say? The stranger's eyes go distant. They stopped answering my calls. No one knows his real name. He signs the journal with initials, MJ. He won't say what they stand for. He claims he saw the masked figure once. Not in the news, not in old footage. In person. He was just standing there, he says. Burlap over his head, arms dangling, like he wasn't even breathing. How do you know it was him? Someone asks. The stranger lowers his voice. Because when he turned, he had her. Voice. He looks toward one of the mothers. She drops her cup. Her daughter's name was Sadie. He tells them about the symbols on the trees. The ones the rangers said were just rot patterns. He says they're not random, that they're names. He opens the journal to a page scrawled in trembling ink. Dozens of initials, all crossed out, except for 3. The family's pale, because they recognize all but one. The stranger looks at the last uncrossed set. You go to that clearing, and he'll finish it, he says. He always finishes it. It takes only 1 week to gather them. 5 parents, a brother, a widow, and the stranger. They pack like they're going camping. But no one laughs. There's no music, no fireside songs. Just cheap sleeping bags and waterproof matches and trembling hands. They leave at dawn. The stranger walks ahead. He doesn't speak much on the trail. When asked what he saw, he says things like, "The woods lean when he's near," or "Don't bring mirrors, he doesn't like them," and "If you hear a name you love in the wind, don't follow it." They don't understand, but they follow him anyway. Because in the quiet hours of grief, even madness sounds like direction. He stops them before the forest's edge. The hollow breathes beyond. The trees are older here, taller. Their bark blackened, like fire kissed it decades ago and left scars behind. Moss coats the trunks like skin. He turns to them. "You'll see things," he says. "Things that look like your children, your partners, your past. But don't stop walking." Someone asks what happens if they do. He doesn't answer, just opens the journal again. The map is marked with a 3rd circle now. They didn't see him draw it. He tears the page out, burns it in front of them. Ash catches the wind. No one sees where. It lands. That night, they camp on the edge, too afraid to enter fully. The trees seem to lean in as they sleep. Something howls, but it's too low to be animal, too rhythmic to be wind. A voice, repetitive, calling, not for help, for witnesses. The stranger sits alone by the fire, sharpening a rusted hunting knife that no one remembers him carrying. His eyes flicker orange in the flame like glass ready to crack. Someone asks why he's really here. He answers without looking up. "Because I left them behind last time, and the hollow doesn't forget. The forest doesn't welcome them in, accepts them, like an old scar accepts another cut. No wind follows them into the trees, no birdsong, just the crunch of boots over leaf rot, the damp exhale of something buried too long, and the heavy silence that clings to their shoulders like cold sweat." The stranger walks first. They follow single file like mourners. The path is not marked. Not really. No signs. No trail markers. No cleared brush. But the stranger moves with certainty, not confidence, just a kind of resignation, like someone returning to a sentence already served. The woods change fast. The trees grow closer together. The sunlight fades, not because of cloud, but canopy. Thick, dark green limbs knit above them like a lid pulled tight over a coffin. Within 20 minutes, the outside world no longer exists. "Are we close?" someone asks. The stranger doesn't answer, because it's not about distance. It's about proximity to memory. The hollow doesn't exist on any map because it doesn't stay put. You don't reach it by GPS. You reach it by forgetting where else you could go. The first marker appears 2 hours in. A tree trunk, split down the middle, burned, carved deeply with one word, below. No one touches it. No one wants to ask what it means. They keep walking. But the forest watches them now. You can feel it. Not with skin, but with something deeper. Instinct. That primal knowing that eyes are on you even when your mind denies it. And the worst part? The forest doesn't blink. They find the second marker just after dusk. This one's newer. A piece of red twine tied around the base of a stump. Beneath it, bones. Small. Animal. Maybe. Or maybe not. It's hard to tell what lies in the hollow. Things decay differently here. Things don't die the same way. The trees begin to change shape. Not physically, not at first, but in memory. One woman gasps when she passes a thick oak and whispers, "That's the tree from the photo." Her daughter's photo, from before she went missing. In the background, that same knotted trunk, that same crooked scar, down the bark like lightning that never finished striking. More trunks appear, carved with symbols. Some look like letters, others like screams. One simply reads, "I thought he was dead." They stop. They don't turn around. Because there's no turning back now. It's the crow that seals it. A shriek from above. Not an animal sound. A warning. It erupts from a branch high above them and flaps away violently. Black wings ripping across the silence like a throat finally opening. The group stares up. The branch sways. But there's something else up there, just above it, tied into the fork where two limbs meet. A piece of burlap, frayed, blood stiff, still hanging, still, moving. No one speaks. They keep walking, but the trail has changed. Now the roots rise up to meet them. The trees seem closer. The air is thick with sap and rot, and the smell, copper, damp wood, old fear, clings to the back of the throat. The stranger stops suddenly. He raises a hand. They've reached it. The clearing. It's not large, just a circle in the woods, surrounded by 12 trees that seem older than memory. Each has a symbol carved into it. No two the same. No one understands them. Not yet. But one man steps forward. He falls to his knees. "This is where she was found," he whispers. His sister. Throat slit, eyes removed, limbs folded like prayer. They buried what was left in an empty coffin, because they never found her face. The stranger places his journal on the ground in the center of the clearing. It flutters open to a blank page. No one touches it. The sun, what little remains of it, vanishes behind the canopy. And then the forest does something unnatural. It holds its breath. No creaks, no wind, no distant animals, just the sound of blood in ears, and something ticking that isn't a clock. "Should we make camp?" someone whispers. The stranger nods, slow. They begin to set up tents, but the ground is uneven now. Soft, like they're pitching canvas over something that shifts beneath them. Like the soil remembers being dug up. That night, the fire doesn't crackle, shivers, and the flames sway away from the clearing, like they want nothing to do with what stands in the center. The stranger doesn't eat. He sits alone, watching the tree line, hands trembling, lips moving in silent prayer, not to God, to the trees. He speaks one sentence aloud before the others sleep. "Don't look for the trail tomorrow. If he's here, the trail will look for us." The fire doesn't last long. It burns strangely, nervous almost. The flames tilt away from the center of the clearing, as if repelled by something just outside the ring of light. No wind, no motion, but the fire knows something is near. They sit in a tight cluster. 8 of them, silent, listening. No one says it aloud, but every ear waits for the wrong sound, a branch snapping the wrong way, a footstep without a voice, a whisper that doesn't belong. The hollow has teeth. They all feel it now. The stranger stares into the trees. His hands tremble, not from cold, from recognition. "She's out there," he murmurs, barely audible. "Who?" He doesn't blink. "The girl I left behind." He doesn't mean a memory. He means her body. They take turns keeping watch, at least they say they will. But no one really sleeps, not completely. The tents zip up. Flashlights die faster than they should. Batteries don't hold. Watches skip seconds. The woods pulse. slow and quiet, like a lung being held just a second too long. She's the first to hear it. The widow. She lies awake, eyes open, staring at the roof of her tent when it begins. Footsteps, circling, not fast, just steady, measured, like someone counting the canvas seams with each step. 1, 2, 3. She whispers for her husband's name, even though he's dead, even though his grave has no body. The footsteps stop. Then, something new. A voice. Familiar. Soft. Evelyn. It's his voice, perfectly shaped. She unzips the tent in one slow breath. There's nothing there. Only the clearing, and the fire, now out. In the morning, her hands shake. I heard him, she says. Not like in my head, he was out there. No, one laughs. No one comforts. Because another man, the brother, finds something worse. His tent is sliced open, but not from the outside, from the inside. Long, clean tears down the fabric, like someone had to get out quickly, or something got in and left. The stranger examines the cuts. He doesn't touch them, he just nods. He's not waiting anymore, he says. Who? Someone asks. The stranger only glances at the trees. They seem closer today. Not physically, emotionally, as if the forest has opinions now. By noon the group debates leaving. We came to find answers, one says. But he found us first, another mutters. They check the map, but the journal is missing. The stranger's leather-bound book, the one with the initials, is gone. Only the torn-out page remains, fluttering beside the cold fire pit. But it's not blank anymore. New ink stains the edges. Names. Only 7 now. And one of them, Evelyn's, is crossed out. She stares in silence. No one dares to ask why. That afternoon, they find the rope. Dangles from a high branch, frayed at one end, looped at the other, too short for hanging, too tight for rescue. It swings gently, no wind, no sound, just a rope. Waiting. Night comes again. Faster, heavier, thicker. Like the sky itself doesn't want to watch what happens next. The fire won't light, not even with fuel. The lighter won't click. The matches snap. The wood stays dry. But the air around it won't allow flame. The brother begins to hum nervously, a song his sister used to sing, but halfway through his voice cuts off, mid-note. He stares toward the trees. Did you hear that? He whispers. No one answers, because now they all hear it. Dragging. Metal on earth. Shk. Shk. Like a rusted blade being pulled slowly across dirt. Closer. Deliberate. They clutch their flashlights, but when they click them on, nothing. Not even a flicker. One of them, the father, stands up. I'm done, he says. This is madness. He walks toward the trees. The stranger lunges, grabs his arm. Don't, he says. He's watching you. Good, the father snaps. I want to see him. He steps into the trees. The others watch. He's only 20 feet away, but the woods eat him. He vanishes between two trunks. Silence. No scream, no crunch, nothing. Minutes pass. Then something is tossed from the woods. It lands near the dead fire. Still, warm. The fathers watch. But the time is rewinding. They don't sleep that night. They sit in a circle where the fire used to be. Every flashlight dead. Every tent zipped but untrusted. The dragging sound starts again just before dawn. Closer. Heavier. Then, it stops, a long silence. Then, a voice. Female. childlike. You said you'd come back. No one answers, because they all know that voice, and no one here has a daughter anymore. The forest opens like a wound, narrow at first, then wider. A thin path, barely visible, stitched between thorned branches and crooked trees that lean too close, together, like they're hiding something just beneath their bark. The stranger says nothing. He just veers off the trail. They follow, too tired to argue, too scared to stop. No one asks how he knows where to go. Some things are led by memory, not direction. They smell it before they see it. A sweetness. Ripe. Wet. Rotten. Like fruit left in the sun. Or something buried that tried to breathe. The shack appears between the trees without ceremony. Squatting. Slouched. Its roof caved inward like it's trying to sink back into the ground that birthed it. The walls pulse with ivy. Mold blooms in black veins across the door. It has no windows. Just one door, half open, like a mouth waiting to be fed. The stranger stops 3 feet from the entrance. It wasn't here last time, he says. No one believes that. It's been here, all along, waiting. The brother pushes the door open with a stick. It groans like something old waking up angry. Inside, darkness, wet wood, the smell. Worse now. A woman gags behind him. The floor creaks like a rib cage, and the walls, covered. Shelves line the room, every shelf packed with jars. Glass, sealed, labeled in pencil and tape, each one full of teeth. Someone whispers, a prayer. Another whispers a name, because some of those teeth are tiny, child-sized. One of them picks up a jar. It's labeled R. Madsen, 110722. I know that name, someone murmurs. He was found behind a barn. They said animals got to him. Another jar, L. Ortega, 081321. I went to school with her, a woman chokes. Then they find the notebook, small, weather-worn, bound in leather darker than blood. Inside, names, dozens. Some crossed out, others marked with dates. One entry, Evelyn Crane, 10:04:25, that's yesterday. Evelyn, the widow, stares. That's her name. I'm still here, she whispers, but her voice sounds thin, like it's deciding. The stranger grabs the book and flips to the final page. Blank, except for one word, scrawled in jagged charcoal. Tomorrow. Nothing else. No names. Just that. A promise. In the far corner of the shack sits a rotted chest, padlock rusted shut. The brother lifts it and lets it drop, bursts open. Inside, photographs, Polaroids, stacks of them, some faded, others too fresh. He picks one up. His sister, alive, bound to a chair, eyes open, mouth screaming. Scratched into the bottom border in pen. Melanie, right before. He drops the photo. Another one. Saw me. Still smiled. A third. Didn't scream until after. No one touches the rest, because they know who they're going to see, and they're not ready to see them see it coming. Someone screams from outside. They rush out. The woman who stayed behind, the one guarding the path. She's on the ground, pointing. Mouth open. No sound, just a trembling hand extended toward the trail. They look. The path is gone. The trail has shifted. Where there was once forest floor and packed dirt, there is now water. Still, black, reflective, a pond that shouldn't exist. And in the middle, a single object floats. The journal, the one the stranger lost, open. Pages untouched by wet. But no one dares reach for it. Not anymore. Something's wrong, one of them whispers. Another sobs. It's always been wrong. They try to leave. Try to retrace their steps. But the forest has rewritten itself. Landmarks are gone. The crow-hung branch vanished. The rope tree. Now 2 trees away. The air is backward. Their own breath curls to the side. Even the sun is in the wrong place. The stranger holds the list. He stares at the names, then at the people beside him. We shouldn't be here, he says finally. You brought us, someone hisses. I followed you, he answers. I never would have come back alone. Silence again. The trees shift, just slightly. Not as wind, as attention. Then something lands in the center of the group. Small. Soft. A tooth, still bleeding. No one saw where it came from. No one saw what dropped it. They look to the shack one last time. The door is now closed, but no one touched it. A handprint, too large, stains the wood in red. Palm down, fingers spread like it was waiting behind the door, and almost got through. They move. Not because they know where they're going, because standing still feels like offering. As the forest darkens, one of them whispers, what if it never stopped? What if it's always just the day before it finds you? It happens just past dusk. The sky above is a pale bruise, and the forest below has stopped pretending to be anything but awake. They walk in silence. No direction, no trail. Just the gnawing feeling that stopping would be worse than being lost. The woman in the back cries softly, her son's name falling from her lips like a prayer she forgot how to mean. The trees answer by leaning in. The dragging starts at twilight, a low, grating pull, metal across dirt, rhythmic, distant, not constant, but patient, shirk, pause, shirk, pause. No one speaks of it at first, because speaking makes things real. They reach a hollow, not the hollow, but a clearing sunken into itself, lined with rotting leaves and fog that shouldn't be this thick at this time of year. The stranger stops. He raises his hand like a man blessing a grave. Then he whispers, he'll let us see him now. They don't know where to look, but the forest chooses for them. Every branch, every leaf, every shadow seems to point. And there, between 2 thin trees split by lightning long ago, he stands, still, silent, tall, wrapped in burlap, soaked. Not like rain, like ruin. One of them gasps, another covers their mouth. No one moves. He doesn't either. His head tilts slightly. Just a few degrees. Enough to notice. Not enough to be noticed back. His arms hang like ropes. No hands visible. No face. Just fabric. Tattered, wet-smelling. Even from a distance of iron and earth and things that should never have names, the dragging stops, because he is here now, present, not chasing, not hiding, remembering. The brother stares too long. His knees go weak. That's not a man, he says. Then, what is it? Someone breathes. The stranger lowers his gaze, a shape wearing a memory. They all blink, just once, and he's gone. No sound, no motion, no explanation, just absence, like the forest took a breath and held it, and something slipped behind it. They don't speak for a long time. What can be said about something that doesn't walk but arrives? About something that doesn't chase but waits? The stranger finally breaks the silence. He lets, you see him once, so the second time, you'll know it's too late. That night, the dragging resumes, louder, closer. It doesn't circle them. It traces their shape. You can feel it. Like fingers sketching through leaves and dirt, remembering what your shadow looks like in sleep. No one sleeps. A woman tries. She wakes up with twine around her ankle, tied in 3 loops. Not tight. No one saw who did it. She doesn't scream, just unties it slowly, and weeps. They try to light a fire again. The wood resists. Even dry kindling curls away from the flame. The spark dies in smoke that smells like teeth. They see something in the trees. Not him. Not again. Just something. A child-sized shadow with no face. It crawls up the trunk of an oak and vanishes into the branches. Another follows it, then another, then none. The stranger lowers his head. Dreams he left behind, he says. Things that bled too long to die. At dawn, one of them goes missing. The brother. His tent empty. No sign of struggle, but his boots remain. Standing upright at the edge of camp. Still laced. Inside one. A Polaroid. His face. Eyes open. Mouth full. Of black string. The dragging is louder now. Sometimes it stops. Just behind the tents. Breathing. Not human. Too low. Too slow. Like lungs made of dirt and thread. They walk again. Blind. No map. No sun. Just away. But the forest doesn't let you walk away. Only in. Eventually, someone breaks. The mother with trembling hands, she screams his name, the man in the burlap, but not just the name, a question. Why? And from somewhere just behind her breath, not in air, but inside the silence, the answer forms. Not spoken, not heard, just known. Because you brought your grief where it could take root. It starts with the compass. The needle spins, not erratic, not broken, just slow, purposeful, turning clockwise, then counterclockwise, like it's considering. The brother, the second one, after the first vanished, tilts it in disbelief. It's magnetized wrong, he mutters. The stranger shakes his head. No, it's pointing inward. Inward to what? The stranger looks around the forest, then whispers, "You." Next, the phones go, one by one. Not cracked, not waterlogged, just empty. Screens stay black, even when plugged into portable batteries. The final phone flickers once, before dying. It lights up with a photo no one took. A group shot. Everyone standing in front of the shack. Only, none of them are facing the camera. They all have their backs turned, and someone else is in the photo, far back in the woods, face wrapped in burlap, arms long enough to touch the edge of the frame. Someone drops the phone. The screen shatters. No one tries to fix it. No one wants to see what it shows next. Then the flares fail. A burst of red. Then silence. No smoke. Just a smell like burnt rope. All that remains is the stranger's radio. A battered, boxy thing from another era. Analog dial. Dusty speaker. The kind you turn with your thumb and hope it doesn't talk back. He brought it, he says, because the hollow bends signal. But sometimes it speaks. They don't ask what that means, because by now they understand. It isn't metaphor. He tunes it slowly, crackling static. Then a hum. Low. Wrong. Then a voice. Help me. No. Run. He's right. He's right behind. A scream cuts through the static. Raw. Real. One of the women claps her hands to her mouth. That was me, she whispers. The voice. It was hers. But broken. Terrified. She's never screamed like that before. But something deep inside her knows she will. Another twist of the dial. More static. Then a man's voice. Calm. Even. We shouldn't have followed him. We were the offering. All of us. Even him. They recognize it. The father who vanished. The one who walked into the trees. The stranger turns off the radio, but it keeps talking. No power. No transmission. Still. Words. Just beneath the static. Like the forest has learned how to speak back. That night, they set camp beneath a fallen pine. No fire, only cold, only breath, only watching. No one sleeps, and when they try, the radio turns on, by itself. Volume low, a whisper, a child's voice. I can see you from the leaves. You're wearing the wrong name. The widow breaks. She stands and throws the radio against a tree. It doesn't shatter. It just stops. And when they turn to look again, it's back on the ground, untouched, still humming, still tuned, still waiting. They walk, blind, drawn by nothing but the refusal to stay. The forest grows thicker, darker. The trees feel like ribs now, a skeleton they're crawling inside. And beneath every step, the crunch of something soft. Not leaves, not twigs, but pages, shredded, soaked, written on. They dig, one up, scrawled handwriting, don't let him learn your shape. Then the screaming starts. It comes from ahead, then behind, then everywhere, like a loop, like a scream played back, like someone hitting rewind on pain. They run toward it. They don't know why. Maybe to help, maybe to make it stop. But when they reach the clearing, it isn't a person screaming. It's the radio, propped up on a tree stump, speaker hissing. You're already dead. You just haven't caught up yet. The brother vanishes that night. His boots remain. His voice echoes through the trees, not calling for help, but laughter, soft, slow, familiar. The kind you make when you finally remember the joke. The next morning, the journal returns. Just lying in the middle of camp, its cover damp with dew, its pages untouched. One new entry appears in the back, not in ink, in blood. Name scratched in, 2 of them crossed out, and 1 still being written, letter by letter. A hand unseen, drawing the lines as they watch. It's the widow's name, she screams. The radio clicks on. Too late, too late, too... The voice cuts. Silence. Then a new voice. Low, familiar. You made it too easy. They smash the radio again. It falls apart this time. Guts exposed. Wires. No battery. No signal coil. Just twine. Black. Soaked in something red. Wrapped. Around teeth. They bury it. The stranger prays. He doesn't say to what. He only ends with, if we stop hearing him, it's because he's close enough to see. That night no one speaks. They lie in silence, but each of them hears it. Not out loud. Inside. The static. The voice. The countdown. 3, 2, 1. And in the dark, just behind their ears, something breathes. Say your name, so I can wear it. The stranger doesn't sleep. He hasn't in days. While the others tremble in their tents or stare into dying fires, he sits alone with the journal in his lap, pages torn, corners soaked, a few pages gone completely. It's colder now, colder than the season allows. The forest breathes slower, and with every breath, the stranger's hands tighten, like the cold isn't what's shaking him. It's memory. He speaks just after dawn. No one asks him to. He just begins. I was here once before. They go still. Only the wind moves now, and even that feels like it's leaning in. There were 6 of us, he says. 3 years ago, hikers, one of them, my brother. He swallows something heavy. We weren't looking for him. We didn't know about the hollow. Not really. He taps the journal. This belonged to him, the one who found it. They don't interrupt, because they know this isn't a confession. It's a confession-shaped wound, and it's bleeding. We made camp in the wrong place, he continues. Didn't feel wrong at the time. Just quiet. Good quiet. He laughs once, bitter. First night, we heard laughter. Thought it was an animal. Then we heard it again, but it knew our names. He looks up, eyes glassy. He came on the third night. We didn't see him clearly. Just the mask and the dragging sound. Shruck. Pause. Shruck. The others glance toward the trees. It's not dragging now. Not yet. They didn't all die, he says. They were offered things. That catches someone's breath. Offered? He nods. He talks to you. Not out loud. Not even in your ears. Just inside. He asks things. Promises things. What kind of things? The widow asks. The stranger meets her eyes. Things you shouldn't want. But do. A silence follows. Not empty. Full of what wasn't said. Then, slowly, he continues. 1 girl was offered her daughter back. He swallows. She said yes. She smiled. And then she walked into the trees. Did she come back? Someone asks. The stranger doesn't answer, but they all feel the no in his silence. He touches his chest, just under the collarbone. There's a scar here, a long one. He doesn't show it. They made me kneel, said I was chosen to remember, to come back and bring others, so they'd never be forgotten. He closes the journal. They don't kill to feed. They kill to preserve. Because forgetting is a kind of death, and he remembers everything. Someone whispers, "Why, you?" He shrugs. I begged. He looks up at the trees, and I ran. The dragging begins again. Closer now, behind them, but no one turns, because the stranger's voice keeps them still, and his story has one more breath to give. My brother didn't beg, he says. He fought. He ran the other way. I heard him screaming, but not like he was afraid, like he was angry. A pause. He screamed my name. What happened? The brother asks. The stranger answers slowly. I didn't go back. They sit in silence. The radio is quiet for once. The trees still. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. Then a voice rises. Faint. From the woods. A voice none of them recognize, but all of them know. It speaks one sentence. You brought them. The stranger closes his eyes and nods. That night, the trees change again. No longer bark and branch. Now faces, carved, etched. Mouths open in shapes of horror or reverence, eyes hollow. But each face looks familiar, like someone they almost loved. Someone they almost became. One of the women whispers, I don't want to be remembered by him. The stranger replies, then you'll have to disappear completely, because that's the only thing he can't follow. But the forest doesn't allow vanishing, it only absorbs. That night, the dragging circles them twice, then stops. A shape stands just outside the firelight. Tall, still, wrapped in burlap. Watching, waiting, not moving. Not yet. No one speaks. Because they all understand now, he's not hunting them, he's cataloging, and the list is almost full. They build the fire like it's a funeral pyre. Dry wood, gasoline, teeth clamped between trembling fingers. A silence stretched tight like tendon. No one speaks. No one blinks. Because if this doesn't work, if he can't burn, then nothing ever will. The shack burns fast. Flames lick up the mold-stained walls and swallow the roof like hunger unhinged. Jars of teeth crack open. Glass screams. Ash spins upward like birds made of grief. They watch from the edge of the clearing. The smoke rolls thick and dark, but there's no smell of wood. Only hair, only flesh, only something forgotten now remembering itself. The bones hiss. The Polaroids curl. The floorboards collapse into the earth like the forest is reclaiming what it once buried. And in the center, atop the flame, they place the mask. Burlap, stained, stiff. They don't know how it got there. They just found it, in the center of camp that morning, resting on a sleeping bag that had no one inside it. The eye holes were wet, but not with water. They toss it in. Gasoline kisses it. Flames consume everything around it. The heat bends the air. The blaze roars. And still, the mask does not burn. Blackens but does not char. It smokes but does not fall apart. Even when the fire dies and the ash cools, the mask remains, sitting, staring, grinning. Someone screams. Another drops to their knees. The stranger just stares, eyes hollow. He says nothing. Not now. Not anymore. That night, no one sleeps. They don't bother pretending. The dragon returns, louder, sharper, angrier. It circles them twice, then stops. Long silence. Then from the trees, "Why did you try to bury memory?" No one answers, because they know now. He doesn't kill out of vengeance. He kills to remember. And the mask is how he carries those memories. Each thread a story. Each stain a name. Each stitch a scream. Just before dawn, the widow wakes. Something feels wrong, too quiet, too still. She checks the others, all accounted for, except the stranger. His sleeping bag lies flat, the zipper half open, a trail of dirt where his feet should be, and beside it, the journal, open to a blank page. Except now, it's not blank. A new drawing, rough, childlike, a man kneeling, arms raised, neck open, and from it, twine instead of blood. They find him 30 feet from camp, sitting up, back against a tree, eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a whisper, throat slit, no blood, only dirt, and from the wound, black twine, unspooling down his chest like a puppet returned to the earth. They don't bury him. They're afraid if they touch him, they'll finish something they didn't mean to begin. Instead, they cover him with leaves, say nothing, and walk away. The dragging doesn't return that night, but the silence does. Heavier, hungrier, like the woods are watching their fear cool, waiting for it to become soft enough to shape. That evening, the mask is back, atop a tree stump. Clean, no ash, no scent. Just burlap and grin, and a single word scrawled beneath it in dirt. Soon, they consider running, but where? Every direction turns back into itself. Every trail curves into a question. Even the stars are wrong now. The constellations shifted, as if the sky knows what they did, and wants to forget them too. The brother takes the journal. He rips out the page, with the drawing, burns it, watches it curl, and finds another drawing underneath. The same image, only this time, he's the one kneeling. No one eats. The forest doesn't allow hunger now, only dread, only memory, only the quiet hum of names being sewn together in the dark, and somewhere, deep in the ground below their feet, the roots shiver. Because the fire tried to kill what cannot die. And now, it knows who lit the match. It starts with the journal. Again. The pages they never wrote. The ink they never touched. and a date none of them lived through. August 17th, 1971. A new page appears at midnight. Not drawn, not placed, just there. The handwriting isn't familiar, but something in it hums like an old lullaby forgotten in a locked part of the mind. Curved letters. Blood-red ink. A smell like mold and oil. The title reads, Petition of Memory, called by 7, answered by 1. They read it together. The fire crackling too low to keep them warm. The wind moving in circles, not forward. We, the broken and the bereaved, call upon the keeper of silence, the burlap man, the one who drags memory through dirt. We offer our hurt, our names, and our willingness to watch. In return, let the pain echo backward. Let those who harmed us remember, and never sleep again. It's signed with 7 names, each smudged, unreadable, but one signature looks eerily familiar. The brother's own name. No, he whispers, backing away, but the others are already looking at him, not with suspicion, with recognition. Like something just clicked. Like his presence here was never accidental. There were whispers in the radio before we came, the widow says. Your voice was clearest. The brother stares at the ground. No, that's not... The friend interrupts. When we stopped at the diner, that old man knew you. Called you the one who returned. You said he was senile. I thought he was. But he wasn't. He falls silent. Then slowly, he whispers, I dreamed of the hollow every year, on my birthday. Always the same trees, same smell. I thought it was just trauma. From the stories, from losing my cousin. He looks up at the others. But maybe I wasn't dreaming. Maybe I was remembering. The silence that follows is deep, fungal, old, and the forest leans closer, as if listening to its own name said aloud after decades of silence. That night, the trees sway without wind, and the radio crackles once, just once, enough to whisper, we remember the willing. The widow sits alone at the edge of camp, near the stump where the mask still waits. She stares at it. It doesn't blink, doesn't breathe, but she knows it's alive, because it's learning them. Not just how they scream, how they regret. And that, more than anything, feeds him. She touches the journal, traces the ritual words, and feels her hands twitch like they want to write, even without ink, even without will. The friend begins coughing again. Harder now. Red blooms on the sleeve of his jacket. He turns away, embarrassed. The brother catches a glimpse of something in his cough. Not just blood. Black thread. By morning, the journal has new pages again. This time, a photograph. Old, yellowing. A group of kids standing in front of a broken-down barn, one boy circled in red. The brother, as a child, holding a small wooden box, smiling. In the far background, a tall man in a mask, blurry, faint, but unmistakable. He drops the journal, backs away like it burned him. No, he breathes. That's impossible. But the trees don't think so. They creak in agreement, as if saying, you brought us, and now we've returned the favor. He runs into the woods. The others chase him, calling his name. But the path splits, then splits again and again, until they're all alone, each in a separate corridor of bark and fog. The hollow doesn't want them together anymore. It wants them isolated, soft, ready. The brother finds a clearing, in the center, the old barn, half collapsed. Exactly like the photo, only older, only waiting. He steps closer. Inside, The walls are covered in names, burned into the wood repeated, some crossed out, some glowing faint red. One name, carved over and over, Jonah. His. In the loft something stirs. A shape, dragging a bag. Ropes dangle from its hands like veins made of twine. The mask stares down at him, eyes hollow, but knowing. The figure tilts its head and whispers, "You said it first." Jonah runs, but the forest doesn't move like it used to. The roots rise, branches claw, the air thickens like syrup, and behind him, the dragging follows, faster now, because it no longer needs to hunt, only to reclaim. Back at camp, the others regroup, all but Jonah. The journal lies open by the fire, new ink forming as they watch. 6 remain, 1 returns. The willing shall not flee. The prayer must be completed. They stare at each other, not breathing, not blinking, because now they understand. They didn't chase the legend. They resurrected it, and it has no intention of dying again. The path is gone. Where there was once trail, now there is only moss, thick, dark, and pulsing like bruised flesh. No sun, no sky, only the sound of breath that doesn't belong to them, and behind it, dragging, slow, patient, deliberate. They try to move, east, west. It makes no difference. The forest curves into itself, a snake swallowing its tail. No matter where they run, they arrive back at the fire pit, and the mask is always there, waiting. Jonah returns at dusk, but it's not Jonah. His mouth smiles, his eyes don't. He walks like memory, stiff, echoing, wrong. His boots leave no sound. His voice, when he speaks, is threaded. Multiple voices woven into one. Thank you for remembering. Me. The friend backs away, coughing again, harder now. A line of black thread unspools from his mouth, wet and slow. He falls to his knees, gagging. The widow screams, reaching for him, but Jonah raises a hand. She stops, frozen mid-motion, not paralyzed by force, by memory, because somewhere in her, in all of them, they remember this, the ritual, the offering, the circle of 7. Jonah crouches beside the friend and touches his chest. You spoke my name. That was enough. The friend shudders once, then stops. His eyes go glassy, and a grin, too wide, too clean, stretches across his mouth. The thread wraps his tongue like a leash. He joins Jonah silently. Now there are 2. The widow whispers to the trees, "Please let me go." They don't answer, only sway gently, like a parent rocking a child into sleep. She turns to run, but her feet won't move. Not because she's afraid, because the roots have woven through her boots, up her ankles, into her skin. Each toe buried in the earth, claimed. Jonah steps closer, the second puppet behind him, smiling, slack-jawed. He places the mask at her feet. It looks up at her, as if asking, "Do you want to forget now?" The brother appears from the trees, bleeding, limping, his eyes wild. He sees her, sees them, and without thinking, throws the lantern. Glass shatters, flames bloom. The mask catches fire again, but just like before, it does not burn. This time, it screams. Not a voice, not a sound, a feeling, like remembering the worst day of your life all at once, down to the exact breath before it shattered. The brother falls to his knees, clutching his head. He screams too, but his voice breaks midway, replaced by a sound like dry wind over bone. The journal lies open nearby, writing itself again. Faster now, pages flipping like wings. The widow, through tears, reads aloud. When the 7th breaks, the hollow feeds. When the circle completes, silence leads. When names are gone and masks are worn, the forest walks and never mourns. Jonah looks at her softly, almost kindly. You called me here. You don't get to shut the door now. The trees bend inward, the fire dies, and from the earth, below, hands emerge, not bodies, just hands, grasping, searching, pulling the old dead into the now, rope-bound, mouth sewn shut, eyes painted open, the others, the past victims. They don't scream, they watch. The widow holds the mask. For the first time, it feels warm, like skin. It throbs once, twice, then whispers, "Let me see through you." She raises it, almost places it on. But the brother, still, bleeding, lunges forward and smashes it from her hands. The mask hits the ground, shatters, into soft fabric and black teeth, and for a moment, everything stops. No wind, no movement, not even breath. Then the forest screams, and the ground opens. The fire pit implodes inward, not flame, but dark, like a sinkhole of shadow. Jonah jerks back, for the first time, surprised. He looks at the brother, sees something older staring back through his eyes. Not defiance, not strength, just an ending. Written too early. The widow grabs the journal and tosses it into the pit. The wind explodes outward. Leaves shred, branches break. The forest howls like it's trying to reverse time. But the ritual, even broken, is done. The pit closes, the air calms, the dragging stops, and Jonah collapses, unmoving, face blank. The thread from his mouth still twitching like it wants to speak. But no voice comes. Only the trees remain. Bent, broken, but no longer watching. The hollow has fed, and for now, it sleeps. They leave the forest at dawn. 2 survivors. No words between them. The widow carries a scrap of the mask. The brother carries a scar shaped like a noose across his back. Neither speaks of the journal. Neither speaks of Jonah. Weeks pass. Then months. The headlines return. Campers found strangled in Redwood Hollow. Police say no signs of struggle. Victims' mouths sewn shut. Masks left behind. The widow wakes at night sometimes. A dragging outside. Just once. Then gone. She doesn't check. She just listens. Because she knows. It doesn't always come for her, but it always comes back. One night, she opens her closet and finds the mask again. Clean, dry, smiling, and beneath it, her own name, sewn into the burlap.